Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a brand new hangout. This time, well, obviously hosted by me, Rowdog Politics, and I have a special guest on this Wednesday evening. Um, Angels is with me, so say hello, Angels.
Hello, everyone. This is quite unusual, isn't it? We don't tend to have like two women not only hosting the stream, but then the guest being a woman too. So it's quite sort
Yeah,
of.
exactly. And we were planning on going live at about 8:30 this evening, but obviously Angel's time meant that we're starting slightly later than build.
I got semi-sucked into the continuum for about 35 minutes, and then, but it's fine. At least we got there eventually.
Yeah, we got there eventually. So yeah, we're here now and we're here to discuss the inevitable thing that we always discuss, which is Brexit, the absolute and utter shambles it is and has always been, let's be honest. Um, and Boris Johnson's resignation speech, Parliament, what Theresa May has sort of backpedaled on, uh, and all the rest of it. And we both think that it's just a whole load of ridiculousness, shit fuckery.
I mean, I think everyone does, right. Right. This is what I've come to the conclusion of, because I've heard this now from like both sides, right? So whether people have voted leave or remain, I've heard constantly people basically saying, well, this is a fucking joke. This is bullshit. Like, nobody appears to be happy. I was saying this
No.
to Swift previously, right? So I'm like, wow, like, this particular government, like when it comes to delivering Brexit, has done a great job in pissing everyone off, haven't they? Like literally everyone.
Like they don't appear to know what they want, and that's really obvious. The fact that they had this thrashing out of a deal at Chequers last Friday, and I was saying to my mum, like, or she was saying to me, that, why would you say that you agree to something on the first instance and then the day after come out and say that you don't agree with it? Like, that is just like, if you don't agree with something, say it at the time to save everybody the embarrassment and humiliation of the fact that you appear to be in an absolute and utter shambles, that you just can't seem to organize yourselves, which is the current like persisting problem.
Yeah,
And
but I think, but I no, you're right with that. I mean, that's what all of us have been really desperate for. I
mm,
think, if you think about it, she doesn't have the numbers, so and she's in such a weak and precarious position that it's quite literally clowns to the left of me and jokers to the right. Like
yeah,
she she is walking a tightrope at the moment. She's never going to please everyone, and obviously we
no,
all know it's just a matter of time before she's gone.
mm,
Who to replace her, because they're
I
all
can't
just.
I can't think of anybody. And I mean, you're right. I think she's hanging on by her fingernails at this point. I don't know how on earth she's holding her party together. I just think it's the fear of Corbyn that like people are getting put into them. Like, if we don't hold things together, then it's going to be a Labour government. To be honest, I wouldn't mind anything
Nice.
better than this.
Well, I mean, actually, this is where like James Fielding and I have quite similar sort of overall views on, as far as our general sort of views or whatever. But I think where we slightly differ is like he's like, oh, this government will be or potentially be better than a Corbyn government. I'm like, well,
Really?
honestly, to me, yeah, it's genuine and like genuinely an existential crisis question, because I can't really say that I would want either of them. So it's literally the none of the above box. So
Yeah, I think you're in a boat with a lot of other people there. I agree. I didn't see where this is going, and I've heard, which MP was it? Was it Sarah
Wollaston.
Wollaston, who said this is the worst of both worlds? And she's right. Like, we're literally getting no benefits. We've got our like 2 feet in different places, and she's trying to compromise. And what I don't like is the fact that the PM seems to be, you know, under, like, she's being held to the fire by these Eurosceptics like Jacob Rees Mogg and John Redwood and Boris Johnson, who have all resigned. Well, not all of them, but recently some of them have. And I just feel like it's just like open bullying. Like, not even like, well, I was going to say not even a majority wants this, but then 52% of the population, not even 52%, not the population, of the electorate voted
Let's
for
say
it.
17.4 million people
70
were eligible to vote.
million. Yeah, and that was 2 years ago, so that wasn't even like a vote on what specific detail part of the thing you were voting for. And I don't think anyone voted for this. This is just a mess.
Well, like, no, I mean, look, nobody is going to look at this as in what we're faced with now. Like, nobody, it doesn't matter what way they voted, but nobody's going to turn around and say, oh, this is a wonderful scenario that we're all in. Like, it's quite obviously a slow motion car crash, isn't it? And it sort of happens day in, day out too. Like, just as you think, oh God, you know, maybe we'll be let off for a day or two, then there seems to be some more infighting or some sort of scandal or whatever. Right. I also just saw that there's tons of comments that were like, you know what I'm like a bit OCD when it comes to comments.
Lots of people are commenting, including Matt Hancock, who we have in the comments as well. He says, we the government are united with Brexit. We agreed to a great deal at Chequers. The so-called rebels have caved in every time they threatened to take May down. Now MPs are withdrawing their letters from the 1922 committee. The government is stronger than ever. May will take us out. I think you're slightly taking the piss there, Matt Hancock.
Matt Hancock is such... Right.
You're a troll.
I have a theory. He keeps popping up on loads of like different streams. I got accused of being him. Swiss got accused of being him. Like, I honestly, like, hand on heart, have no idea who he is. James Fielding went AWOL for a day and a half, and all he was doing was seeing mates. He gets accused of being him. I thought it was Jack James. Jack James thought it was me. Like,
I think maybe it's Luke Wardner.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Maybe.
Matt Hancock, are you Luke Wardner? Okay, and also I love how Jack James goes, Matt Hancock, can you confirm I am not you?
Oh dear. What was I going to say?
Philip Mason also adds, why has the EU made a free trade deal with Japan without the 4 freedoms? Is that not relatively self-evident? I mean, I don't know whether I'm being really naive here, but is that not because obviously Japan's like not a member, so if they're not signed up to the European Union, they don't have to take the 4 freedoms, whereas obviously people who signed up to it do.
Yeah.
Because it's an outside trade deal, like the 4 freedoms don't necessarily apply. At least that's
is that like the freedom of movement, freedom of
labor and, you know, services and goods and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I assume that's the case. So it seems to me like we're sacrificing a great deal for just a handful of minority rich people.
Yeah, no, I agree. But sorry, can I just quickly add that Matt Hancock has also said, Macy, whoever this is a bloody troll, I'm going to kill you and I'm going to find you out.
She should
May is a great leader and a proud feminist and should not get slandered. Slander is quite a heavy word, Matt Hancock.
I think the Daily Mail do a good job of slandering enough for all of us. So
there you go. Just don't get Rowan started on Trump.
Don't. I've already done a crazy stream on that, and oh Jesus Christ!
Somebody in the bullet chat was saying it was hilarious because you were calling yourself a libtard.
Oh yeah, I think Shafted was saying that. Like I only did that so that everyone else just would just stop taking the piss. I'm a libtard.
Proper riled up there, doesn't
deal with it.
Yeah.
Oh Christ, what world are we living in?
Honestly, I don't know. Oh, Bazza's here as well. Hello, Bazza, and lots of the regulars. What did Cameron say? Do you want to read a couple more comments? I'm just having a sip of water.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just trying to find. I was reading an independent news article about the Boris Johnson speech earlier that I was trying to bring up on my phone.
Yes.
But I'll do it in a second.
I will start talking about that actually before you do.
Okay.
I was actually walking around. You're gonna be so proud of me.
Waitrose?
No, Aldi's.
Shock horror.
I was walking around Aldi's and I was catching Pokemon.
It's just
obviously.
Aldi. It's not Aldi's.
Well, yeah, I know, but I always add it. It's like Tesco is just Tesco, but I always say Tesco's. I don't know why.
That sounds weird when you call it Aldi's.
It's Aldi. You're right. It's Aldi. You're right. But no. But when I was like, I was like walking around, and it's so bizarre. Like this Aldi, which I'd never been to previously, but they have like award-winning wines and stuff, and also I knew that the barbecue meats are like pretty good, like for the for the money. So I'm like, oh, I'll just like check it out, and it's only recently opened. And then I got like a couple of people in the billet chat were sort of mentioning that obviously Boris Johnson was doing this so-called big, very impactful speech or whatever. And so I was like, oh, okay. And obviously I have the, the catch-up app, the BBC catch-up app on my phone. So I was like, oh, yeah. I might not want to miss this because if it's as like hyped as everyone says it is, it's going to be wonderful and inspiring and all this.
Yeah.
So I was wandering around like the barbecue meats wines, like, listening to him drone on about sort of whatever. It was kind of what Swiss said. It was like a big load of nothing really. Like it was not inspiring in any way. Like it didn't really.
I'm trying to find it on my phone. I think one quote I read, I noticed how Boris Johnson likes to make up words in his speech to make himself sound more clever.
Yeah.
Or I don't know whether that's me being ignorant or they are actually real words. I think he called it like we'll become a vassalic state. A vassalic state. Yeah. It's like, oh, right. So I don't know like what point you're trying to make. Like I know that you obviously campaigned for leaving the EU, but like we're trying to do as much as possible to try and make it like the best deal you can try and negotiate. Like we don't want to leave with a no deal because that wouldn't be very good, and a lot of businesses are touting the fact that it wouldn't be very good, including various car companies as well as pharmaceuticals who are already planning for like a no deal scenario as we speak. So yeah, I just I don't even know, like he obviously has an agenda along with like Jacob Rees Mogg and that, but it's just like I don't know why he stands up and makes these just vacuous points.
Because he has to bluster. I mean, this is Boris Johnson. He has to keep himself in the news. He has to bluster, and he has to get some attention every now and again. But frankly, I'm now really questioning. I thought, oh yeah, he is very self-interested, and he obviously will run. I'm not actually convinced now that he will run. I think it's more likely to be a Sajid Javid or even Gove over him. And it was interesting because somebody linked, I can't remember which one of you guys in the side chat, you can help me out, whoever did, but somebody linked in the bullet chat the latest odds, which obviously, changed the whole time. And I think it was Sajid Javid as number one. And like, no,
really?
sorry. No. So the most likely prime minister this was. So this was not actually, sorry, I'm getting this wrong. This was most likely prime minister. It was Jeremy Corbyn number one at 5-1. And then at 6-1, it was Gove. And then I think we had Sajid Javid and a couple of the others and stuff. But Boris Johnson was a little bit further down than he was previously. So I'm like wondering whether, because I said for a while now, like I think he's one of those people that could sink the party in the sense of he's like too Marmite kind of thing. Like there's too many moderate voters who just really think he's very, very toxic. Yeah.
I don't know. It's like I think if if that happens, we have to, well, the government has to trigger a vote of no confidence, and then they obviously have to vote for potential nominees and candidates. And in order for people to vote for a specific person, it needs to be like members of the party as well as members. So it's going to be a Marmite issue as to whether Boris Johnson gets elected. I bloody hope not. That's just adding insult to injury, I think.
Well, I mean, he was bad enough as foreign secretary, wasn't he? And like, I think what it is too is that, like, and I have actually said this for quite some time. Like, if you were given a list of MPs and you said, oh, here's the roles that you need to assign them to, pick the worst candidate you possibly can for these roles.
Yeah, yeah.
If I was given foreign secretary, I would have picked Boris Johnson.
Last, or like not even picked him.
No, I would have picked him for the worst possible candidate. Like, if I had to pick the worst possible foreign secretary, I would have picked him. Like,
oh God, yeah, exactly.
It's so bizarre that he was even in that position. But then people have said, oh, it's because she felt threatened by him, and it's because, like, you know, she wanted to keep the enemies close and all of this.
She's so weak, isn't she? Like, just I wish she'd just exert some damn authority over people. She's the effing prime minister. Why can't when she's getting bullied by people, like, and she's getting told what she should be doing, like, she's the leader. She should be saying, like, I'm going to put the country before the party and before the government, because I think we're at a crossroads here. It's really important that we get this right and actually show some moral backbone and say, I'm not going to do what you say because I know that you're putting yourselves first and you're not putting, like, the people of the country and the economy and everything else,
people's jobs and all this.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that's a really annoying thing. And I've just managed to bring up the Independent article I was reading.
Okay.
And
Go ahead and
share. I'll just read. I'll just actually read. Oh, I might share it actually. Yeah, saying that. If I can find it. So, just say something for a few minutes.
No, actually, I wanted to go through the side chat anyway because I hate doing the side chat. I get like OCD. I get a bit like, oh God. We've got people giving Matt Hancock a bit of a hard time. I don't know. Matt Hancock's pretty okay. He's certainly very loyal to his government. So well done, Matt Hancock. Philip Mason says, so why is the EU demanding we have to be signed up to Four Freedoms when we are a third country? I don't think we have to be signed up to the Four Freedoms unless we are either a vassal state, essentially, which is like, you know, the worst of both worlds, Brexit, or unless we're a member. But if we just have a trade deal, I think that's a little bit different. But then, you know, that takes a long time to sign off, and it will be a trade deal within itself. Like, it wouldn't, you know, be necessarily signed up to being.
Right. I think I've got the article here, so I'll screen share.
Okay. I'll quickly add before you start reading it out that Matt Hancock has also added. Bloody hell. I am the proud MP for West Suffolk. It is #Team Hancock through and through. Okay.
Okay then. Probably not, but we're just taking your word for it. So, hello. Okay, so can everyone see this, by the way? I hope so.
Yeah.
So key points. Boris Johnson claims it is not too late to save Brexit in critical resignation speech. EU leaders risk major damage to their economies if they force the UK into a no-deal Brexit, says Liam Fox. Jeremy Corbyn vows action will be taken against Labour MP who called him a F-word anti-Semite and a racist. Corbyn critic John Woodcock resigns from Labour to sit as an independent MP. Ooh. And Theresa May refuses to say if baffling customs plan requires EU border staff to collect duties for UK after Brexit. I think that's something that the EU have actually rejected. So I think it's safe to say that that's something that actually isn't baffling, and we can, you know, put that to bed.
Meaning we can fairly sort of agree that that's not going to actually happen.
No, I think the EU have actually said that we're not going to accept duties at our border. Boris Johnson has claimed it is not too late to save Brexit in his first speech since resigning from government, where he tore into Theresa May's Chequers plan. The ex-Foreign Secretary gave a resignation statement to MPs where he claimed a fog of self-doubt has fallen over Britain since the Prime Minister's Lancaster House speech, and claimed her new plan would reduce the UK to an economic vassalage. Vassalage? Is that how you say that? Vassalage. I don't know. However, Miss May was spared the pleasure of listening to his address as she faced grilling by senior MPs on the liaison committee over her Brexit record. Miss May also attempted to rally her deeply divided party at a meeting of the 1922 Committee of Tory backbenchers. Earlier, Jeremy Corbyn attempted to exploit divisions in the Conservative ranks by claiming the party was too busy fighting each other to negotiate during Prime Minister's questions, which was today. The Labour leader was also embroiled in a fresh anti-Semitism row after a veteran MP was heard berating him for being a fucking anti-Semite and a racist. His office has vowed to take action against Dame Margaret Hodge for the comments which came amid a furious internal row over the party's new code of conduct. And then it's got some live updates down here. Anna Soubry, who is an arch-remainer in the Conservative Party, says Jacob Rees Mogg is now running our country. I mean, that's fairly accurate. Warning Theresa May is no longer in charge after caving into Brexit hardliners in key Commons vote. The leading pro-EU Tory also called for a government of national unity to take on the growing crisis, urging the Prime Minister to reach out to Labour backbenchers. More here. And there's a picture of Jacob Rees Mogg.
Okay, so this is a point of contention.
Let's break this down.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, this is a point of contention, and certainly it had been in the bullet chat, and I know that people get very riled up over this because obviously and also I'm not in reading the side chat comments. I know that there's a couple, but I will read them out in a second. But I just wanted to make the point that people said that they were really pissed off because the so-called Blairite, the right wing of Labour, is prepared to kind of prop up essentially Theresa May's vision of Brexit, and her government, in order to not get a hard Brexit or some sort of form of Brexit that maybe potentially could have been posed by Jacob Rees Mogg and co, right?
Mm-hmm.
But and they say, they're absolute sellouts and all this. But what Anna Soubry was saying there is because Brexit is not necessarily a party political thing. I mean, I understand that obviously the numbers are different according to party. But considering it's not a party political thing per se, as in there are people with different views in every party, that they need to kind of get together and get a general consensus on something that's going to work, because people are split enough as it is. So the concept of that I agree with, but I think it's very difficult, shall I say, as at least to sort of think it can be like a cross-party agreement and all this and everyone's going to be happy with it. No, because people will be flinging mud left, right and centre. People say these effing Blairites or these Tories or this, that, or, it's going to basically create more divisions as opposed to less in some ways.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, and I understand why when it was happening that, you had sort of more right-wing Labour Party members that were let's say, appeasing Theresa May's Brexit plan and sort of trying to sort of hold her up, as it were. I understand why they would do that, because as soon as you see, if you voted Remain, and as soon as you see a plan that sort of roughly resembles sort of a half decent deal. I mean, like it may not be like a completely. I mean, it's hashed out and it's clearly not the best of any worlds, but it's the best that we've seen so far in many ways.
I guess you and I would think that, but say because both of us are just for the sake of the side chat, like we're both Remain voters.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
probably
true,
more
yeah.
hardened Remain voter than Rowdog is, but you know, we both do find it like a total mess. But I think that, I mean, even I have to say, as like a Remainer, right? When I saw the Chequers deal, I was like, that is basically staying.
Yeah.
But with no influence. Like,
no, it's basically we're
Remainer,
just gonna be a rule taker, and we're just gonna be sort of like Norway, who does that.
But even worse, actually, on a couple of points.
Yeah.
So
not in the single market, just not having a seat at the table and just sort of remaining
going along with it, having to take the directives, not having our no and veto as we have now. You know, all of this stuff, like, just it's absolutely ridiculous. Like,
I can see why she's done it though. Like, she's attempted to make a compromise and it's just not worked. It's just fallen flat in her face or flat on the floor. And because it is such a contentious issue and it's so divisive, and because there are figures like Jacob Rees Mogg and like Boris Johnson who are so like are causing a bigger rift, it's making it so much harder to come to a conclusion. And I think I mentioned Sarah Wilston before, but I think she was on the news the other day and she actually did suggest the fact that maybe we should have some form of second referendum on the deal itself, and maybe have, like, it sounds ridiculous when I'm describing it, but maybe we should have like more than two options. So you have like, let's stay in altogether, except
leave
a deal that's negotiate. Yeah, leave on a rubbish deal or no deal at all, and that's four options. Which I don't know. I don't know if it's feasible. I don't know if I can see it happening. But I mean, in an ideal world, this wouldn't be happening. But I mean, I don't even know what I'd vote for, to be honest, if it was brought to the people. I think the people should.
I do.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. But like, I just, it is really contentious, isn't it? Like, I think a lot of people are really fed up with all of this, like non-negotiating. Just, I think it's really clear, and some MPs have voiced this, that we've got to a point where nobody is able to agree and we're at a stalemate and we're not getting anywhere, and something
like
needs to be done. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And something needs to be done to break it.
Yep, I completely agree with you. And the thing
I'm
is,
stop sharing now.
Okay. The thing is, too, is that that's one of the reasons why, because I don't agree in a second referendum enough. I know that most Lib Dems do, but then I only vote, or planning to vote Lib Democrat, because these two were just no. But I did not agree with their plan for this vote to go back to the people. As I said a million times, if I never saw another referendum in my life, it would be too soon.
Yeah.
So I hate them. Like, I don't want anything to do with them. So I'm not convinced that that's true. But if it is indeed, like, I started to get my realistic hat on, and I was, if they're deadlocked and they don't have the numbers, basically, because remember, dates are like looming.
Yeah.
If they don't have numbers and they don't know what to kind of do, it's almost like their get out of jail free card is to put it back to the people, because then they can say, oh, look, we're really sticking up for your democracy and all of this.
But that depends on what people vote for.
It does, but I mean, I don't think that there is an appetite for a hard Brexit overall. I think that, because, like, if you think about it, Brexit is only won by a slim majority as it is.
Yeah.
And so we can't turn around and say like all 17 million like are hard, full on, like focused Brexit sort of obsessed people, because I don't believe that. I think that the average, the average person doesn't necessarily worry about that.
I don't want to downplay it, but when we talk about 17.4 million people, that's only really like a small percentage of the population anyway.
Well, our population is what, 65 mil?
65 million, that's right. Yeah.
And what's our voting? Do you know what our electorate is?
So it's usually about, I know the referendum was about 72%, I think. So if you take,
quite a lot of people didn't turn out then.
I think from what I can remember, so I think with the election, I think it was more for this election last year. So let's say 75% of the electorate. And so it's like 17.4 million would be, I don't know, my maths is terrible. But yeah,
so is mine. The guys in the side chat can help us, and then I'll read out your comments.
Yeah, Oliver Foster is backing me up. 72 voted, which is about 72%, which is about 50 million. Have I got that right? So yeah, and that's
wasn't it like 16 million, like 17 million who voted? So it's like 30 odd mil who voted.
Yeah, that's about half. No, is that right? Only half the population.
I don't know. You're really confusing me right now. Like my brain's actually exploding. I don't know whether that's just because I'm full after a barbecue with like wine.
Someone in the chat just tell us, because I can't. My brain is frazzling. I don't even know what I'm talking about.
This is what happens when you come on a stream with me and Rowdog, right? I will read out a couple of them because I saw them flying.
Thomas Williams says the total number of UK parliamentary electors in December 2016 was 45,000.
I thought it was about 45 mil, yeah.
37% voted to leave. 37% of the electorate. Okay, so there you go. It's not even above 50%. So
what? Okay, I didn't realise it was.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was. It wasn't even like a great deal of people. So yeah, what was my point about that? Ah, God. So what I was saying was the fact that because it was like not a large degree, not enough of the population made like a justifiable difference. Not to like downplay it or undermine the fact that people voted, and we obviously got a majority of 52%. But again, I just feel like not enough people made it clear, or like not enough people voted, so we had like a decisive decision made. And again, to prove that like 2 years down the line, we still haven't like gone anywhere in terms of negotiating or like what we actually want, which is from what I've surmised, cake and eat it and cherry picking and all the rest of it, which we obviously can't have. And the EU has made it abundantly clear that we can't do that because we're going to be leaving, so we can't have all the nice things that the EU offer us with membership. I mean, that seems like so obvious.
Sort of logic, isn't it? It's like the one, which is what I've always said. We've been. I ignored. I wanted to read out something that Jack James had said earlier. He says, "This is back up at 9:24." Jack James said, "No deal is impossible now." He said all amendments will mean very little in negotiations. It's literally between the government and the EU now. I agree with him. I don't think that either of the major parties, and I think we've sort of seen that recently, the reality is that they are not going to have the guts to just crash out. Like, I think they're going to swallow any shit deal.
I think what it will come to is the EU will exert its ultimate authority and say, right, you obviously can't come to any decision or,
agreement amongst
yourselves. So we're going to basically tell you either take what is given to you or go away. And obviously, like, the EU have tried their best. Like, there's some members within the parliament that um want to try and get the best deal, because we want to obviously retain partnership and like trade as much as possible.
Like the
But
bonuses, yeah.
yeah, but it's just being made so difficult by people in British Parliament that it's just, I'm not surprised people are getting really hacked off with it, like included. Like I just I I'm fed up of having this really push-pull relationship with, Eurosceptics and the ERJ, and Remainers and Leavers and people in the middle who can't quite decide. And it's so tiresome. And I just think we've come to such a massive stalemate where people obviously aren't able to make competent decisions in the best interests of the country, that at some point it's either going to be the EU makes a decision for us, or it goes back to the people to, make the decision again and make it more specific as to what it is exactly that's on the table.
Yeah. I don't think for a second that a no deal is going to be voted through by Parliament under any circumstance. I've always said this. There's no majority in Parliament for that. And since we now have a meaningful vote in Parliament for it, they are not going to vote for it. End of. So this idea that somehow Parliament is quote unquote going to come to its senses in the views of some of the more sort of extreme Brexiters, it's just not. Sorry, but that's not the likely reality.
Yeah, that's true. I just think that this government is just going to continue to stumble on for however long. I mean, I'm talking probably months at this point.
But then I think that they're clearly unfit for office. That's not
for sure.
debatable. But I mean, like, I can't really understand it. Like, I can't believe that we have a government this bad.
And something that I was thinking about earlier, whilst I was standing on a street corner waiting for a lift.
Standing on a street corner, you want to watch that? People might get the wrong idea.
I know. I thought about that as well. It's like, oh, people. I'm not waiting for anything other than a lift.
That's what they all say, darling. But okay.
Yeah, I know. Excuses. But I was thinking, it's like, are we really sacrificing all of the stuff that we have already with the EU for the sake of sovereignty? Because that's essentially what it is, isn't it? Let's be real. And I was thinking, like, sovereignty. Well, we already have that. Like, we already have that. And like prominent Leavers and Brexiteers have managed in a monumental way to persuade people that we don't actually have sovereignty in our own country. Like, we don't have the ability to make our own laws, which is false.
Yeah, of course it's fake news.
We absolutely do. Like, we don't have the ability to like, be a sovereign country and do our own thing. It's like we're like somehow we're not an independent country, which we are. Like, absolutely we are. Like, can you imagine telling France, who are also part of the EU, that you're not an independent country that can't make your own decisions? And considering like the revolution that they had in like the 18th century, like, to get rid of their sovereign king, queen, royalty, they'd probably slap you in the face if you told them that. So
I'd pay to see that.
Yeah, like, how dare you suggest that we don't have power to control our own decision making and law making? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, it's just, we've been sold a kipper. We've been sold an absolute kipper. And anyone who thinks otherwise, that we don't have sovereign control over our... Like, why do you think Parliament is there? What do you think Parliament is for?
She's off, lads. She's off.
But I just mean, like, I
know what you mean.
But like, Brussels tells us what to do. And it's like, well, I mean, they're not dictators. They don't like force things upon us. And like, if they do tell us like to do to like have certain laws. They're probably quite sensible, like mainly to do with manufacturing of electronic goods and health and safety stuff. I can't think of one. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but that's probably what they are.
I mean, there are some silly ones, you know. I will say that, but the vast majority looking at them properly are absolutely something that anybody with an ounce of brain would actually sign up to anyway. And often we had actually, as a country and as one of the original sort of members, helped to write some of them in the first place. So like this idea that somehow we're being ruled by Brussels, and also our deal does involve like a veto, for example, which not all deals do, and a blatant no to be like, nah, I'm not going to take that on, mate, sorry. Which also, as a vassal state, we would not have. So this is it. So it's almost like saying, oh, I think I'll opt for a mobile phone with a really shitty cracked screen and a battery that doesn't last, as opposed to a brand new iPhone.
Or
and then on a no deal, it's like, oh, I think I'll just stick to a landline. Bye. Like it's fucking ridiculous. Like it's
like let's pretend I'm gonna buy a house, but I don't want to have a look at it.
No, you don't want to see it. You just want.
I just want to sign the contract and give me the keys, thanks. I don't care if I don't have insurance. You know, the ceiling's falling down,
rot or maggots.
Mold, yeah, fine. I don't mind. I haven't seen it, but I don't care. Oh dear. So Cam says in the chat, money is more important than democracy. Apparently, do you have control over our? Do we have control over our trade policy? Can we set our own tariffs? Can we invest in our industry without any restrictions? Well, I mean, if we were to leave the EU without a deal, we wouldn't have that anyway. Like, I don't think, because being in the EU gives you the benefit of being able to veto things that you don't like and having some say in the influencing of decision making. So I think, like, I understand where you're coming from in the fact that if we crash out and become completely, you know, by ourselves without any attachment to, you know, the EU, then I understand that we could possibly, I don't know, set our own tariffs possibly. I mean, we don't know if we could actually do that yet, seeing as we haven't actually left, and we don't know, as we've never done it before, what could happen. So I mean, you could be right, Cam, but better safe than sorry, I think, in my eyes.
Yep. Carry on reading them out too. There's a couple of funny ones down there.
Oh, okay. I was just reading Cam's points because he asked a few questions. Well, Shafted says happiness, freedom, and prosperity, the three pillars of our constitution. Well, yeah, we've got an unwritten constitution, but I have, yeah, I don't know if they're not written down. I don't know if that's true. Cam says, so we are not capable that we can create those regulations ourselves. Yeah, as I said, you might be right, Cam, but we don't know yet. So that's uncharted territory, I reckon.
Yeah, but all of that. Sorry, can I add to that? What really pisses me off about this argument is that our governments have successive ones too, under both parties, have proven to be liars, and have proven to be certainly incompetent in certain areas, and are never going to like stick up and start investing in things as a general rule. The thing about a general consensus between 28 nations is that they have to fucking stick to it. Now, what happens when we write this all into UK law? Let's say we have a government as I mean, look at this.
It's just a copy and paste job, isn't it, essentially?
Yeah, so they're copying, but because all the power goes to them, this incompetent Tory government, they will end up taking out whatever they want when it comes to stuff which literally protects people, so that they don't have to worry about it. and then carry on. So would I trust the EU sort of general sensible laws when it comes to sanitary stuff and
human rights,
sanitation,
environment laws?
Yeah, exactly. Maternity, paternity pay, like environmental laws. Yes, 1,000 times. I would take them 1,000 under this poor excuse for a government. Any day of the fucking week.
Those were my initial concerns anyway when I was actually voting like 2 years ago. Like I would much rather have like remain and still have whichever regulatory laws in place which the EU sort of have jurisdiction over, rather than handing them all over to a shit show of a government who are more interested in their own selves as opposed to the actual country.
More. Yeah. It's like this is my entire point. So yeah, like, as I said, when it comes to common shared principles, right? This is where the EU thrives, because some of the things that have cleaned up our beaches, that have done brilliant stuff for sort of generic sort of rights amongst human beings, all of this has worked extremely well. Do I trust it in the hands of these corrupt fucking idiots? No.
Absolutely not.
So keep a shared interest, and at least then they can be held to account or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, at least then we have some input over what's going on. Otherwise, you'll just be, screaming to a brick wall that doesn't really want to listen to you. And sort of outside of the tent pissing in, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, like I'm not, and also neither of us, like, even though I know we're both Remainers, me more sort of hardline than you, arguably, but we have never said that it's perfect. We've never said, oh yeah,
no.
This is great.
Love the EU, where EU love is.
I didn't even know that the hashtag FBPE was a thing on Twitter before, like, talking about it. I was like, what? Yeah, it's like a hardcore Remainer hashtag, and I was like, oh,
it's okay. Follow back pro-European. I don't think I'm that hardline pro-European. Like, it makes me uncomfortable. Like that there's so many people that like protest, and it's almost as if the EU is some perfect institution that is like, oh, we're going to be, oh, it's really great, and that we should totally still remain in it because it obviously is the better option compared to crashing out. But they sort of like the way that they conduct themselves, it's like, oh, the EU is just so amazing, it's wonderful, it's like land of milk and honey. It's like, no, it's not really. Like, there's major flaws that we want to fix.
No,
and we want to reform it, but it's something to be critical of just as much as this current government. So yeah, I'm just going to read. I think Barnick Burt made a funny comment saying, "I don't like the house I'm living in. What do you do? A, burn the house to the ground, or B, find somewhere new to live?" That's like my exact analogy that I was making. Like, oh, I don't like the house, but so I'm just gonna burn it to the ground, so I have no other option. Like, I don't even the opportunity to do any like works on it or call in a contractor, anything like that. I'll just burn it.
I mean, that's the whole thing. It's also taking a lot of options off the table early. I think was a big mistake for this government, to be honest.
Yeah.
But there's quite a few other comments actually. Like, oh, yeah. I feel like I get like OCD with the like, can you like?
Yeah, I'll just do it.
Carry on reading whilst I grab a glass of wine. I'll be back in a minute.
Cam says, forget vetoes. The EU is run by a bunch of neoliberals. Why should we create another corrupt bureaucracy above Parliament? I mean, it's not a case. I don't think it's a case of creating another corrupt bureaucracy. There is, as we said, a lot wrong with the EU, but it's better to be part of it than not part of it, and like influencing ways we can possibly reform it. I mean, that's my take on things. But again, like, this Tory government is a bunch of neoliberals, and the Labour Party has got a lot of neoliberals in it as well. So we're picking from a bunch of bad apples. The best of a bad bunch. Thomas Williams says, burn the house to the ground if you're a hard Brexiter. Carol says, our governments are just as bad. Yeah, I'd agree with that assessment. Thomas Williams, because the house was made with materials from the EU SSR. Cam says, can't we get rid of them both? What would we be left with in that case? I mean, in an ideal world, we'd have progressive governments that put the interests of the people first. But unfortunately, we don't have that, and we're fighting an uphill battle, especially when it comes to Trump and the Republican Party in America. But that's another story for another time. Oliver Foster says, I think you're a new watcher, Oliver. So hello to you. I hope you're enjoying this stream. I'd say our government is worse when they think the EU is on their side. They're happy to defer responsibility and fix the tax system and ownership laws in their favour. Yeah, I'd say. Did you vote Remain, Oliver? You're coming across as a Remainer, so let me know what you voted. If we give them all the power, we're fucked. I agree. Yes. We should be able to pollute our environment and poison our rivers as much as we want in the name of sovereignty. Oh dear. Well, we wouldn't be living very long in that case. Why do we have to pick lesser evils? The EU is a pro-corporate, pro-austerity bureaucracy. Thomas Williams says, drink the lead water in the name of sovereignty. Every EU law made could be passed or even improved by a UK outside the EU. Well, I don't trust the government to even come close to doing that at the moment. So, I mean, I would say if we actually come up with a sensible, detailed, comprehensive plan, and maybe this is years down the line, say 20 years, however many years it takes, and it's reasonable, and we come out of the EU and we're able to do all of this, then maybe it's a very tiny possibility at the moment, based on what we're seeing in government and in Parliament, just the sheer incompetence of everybody. It's just looking impossible. So, I mean, it's easy to say when you write it down and say we can do this, but there's just so much involved, and there's just so much red tape, etc. I just don't see that happening at the current time. Maybe in 20 years, if we shelve it and then come back to it later, then perhaps when we have got a more stable, secure, sensible government, then perhaps. Oliver Foster says, may I suggest you guys look at our Great Lakes threatened Hardlands Media's trip to East Chicago's toxic tour for what Tory-type capitalists do. Okay. A lot has been made... I've just lost that comment. A lot has been made of the regulatory standards, but I must say they are nothing special. When you look at most of the Western developed countries, some have gone above and beyond. Hi, Jack James. Look at Flint, Michigan as an example of what will happen if we give people like Mogg absolute control of the country. Yes, I agree, and I know what's going on in Flint, Michigan, and it's fucking awful. And I feel really sorry for those people.
Water, and it's still not even sorted.
They've not even fixed it, and I don't think they can be bothered. So I'm just going to finish reading the rest of these comments.
Yeah, sure.
Matt Hancock, I would remain, but now we have to leave. May offers us a strong and stable Brexit that will protect jobs and businesses.
Well, you would say that, Matt Hancock. He's very, very loyal to his great leader.
Oliver Foster says they've just said they want unregulated capitalism already. Jacob Rees Mogg is one of those people who thinks markets can regulate themselves morally. We need Swiss to counter the pro-EU argument. Yes, probably. It should be here.
Who thinks more Chamty or Angels? Definitely Chamty. This is only my glass of wine number 2, I think. And like a dash. Yeah, it's not bad.
The comments are going by too quickly. So I'll just read the most recent ones. Bionic Bert says, I didn't vote as I felt neither option was a good option. In short, the referendum was a mistake. Oh, you can say that again. People like him would feed people rat poison if there was a profit in it. Yeah. Trump could do a better job of Brexit, don't you think? No. Cam says, if you want to see an economic plan, I recommend looking at John Mill's economic plan. He has the closest post-Brexit economic plan. Trump would tell Juncker to fuck off. Yes, so would I. Oh no, I'd do the opposite. Juncker would probably tell Trump to fuck off, but so would I.
Don't get us started on Trump.
Jack James says, really, because the same companies that cause Flint are known lobbyists in the EU. So my question to you would be, how do you plan the curtail of EU lobbying?
Oh, that's an interesting point, actually. Like, I'm not well read on this. Like, I think I need to do a bit of reading up, because obviously I'm not going to.
I know that like UK politicians are lobbied, and I know that there's a lot of like donations.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm the same. I don't really know a lot about how EU lobbyists go about their business in Europe. So yeah, I need to look up that.
Same.
Thomas Williams says, I was too young to vote in the referendum, but if I had the option, I would have spoilt my ballot, as both options were awful, and I strongly disagreed with the idea of referendum.
Yeah, I do as well. I don't agree with referenda at all.
Yeah. Oliver Foster says, I was leave, but I changed my mind. That's interesting.
Well, I mean, I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not surprised, but
look at what we're faced with.
Yeah. And Cam says, hang the Tories, bring Tony Benn back from the dead and let him manage Brexit. Well, yeah, I mean, Tony Benn was a great guy, but we're just seeing what his son is doing with it now, so I guess that's the best you get. Hang McVeigh, well, I think lobbyists should be banned altogether due to their anti-democratic nature. Well, I think coming at it from an American point of view, I know a bit more about lobbying and the fact that basically corruption is well, not corruption on a like you'd call it that, but lobbying is legal, so there's a lot more room for like corruption on a much bigger scale in America. So the fact that politicians are beholden to big conglomerate corporations, so don't put the interests of the people and their constituents first, like at all. They just do things because their companies pay them to do things that they want to do.
Basically, just massive advertisers.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, yeah, I think it happens everywhere though. I mean, like if you have a look at a lot of it, well, didn't we see previously about one of the campaigns, the official Vote Leave campaign actually got done for like
overspending,
by $500,000 or whatever it was, but also funneling money off to this random group, which was like some young Leave group.
Yeah.
Which surely must be as rare as rocking horse shit if you think about it. Like, because weren't like 70% of young people Remain?
A lot of them were, but I think there were also sort of little groups dotted about that were Vote Leave as well. But,
and so they had funneled money off to this, and apparently it's all been,
and they'd not stated how much they had actually spent on their specific campaigns. So
they had not been forthcoming with like
and they breached spending laws, I think, and I think some of them have been I think it's been taken to like the police, and the police are starting to investigate it now, which I think I'm glad of. So like proper like wrongdoing and like going against the law and things like that. So yeah.
Well, I mean, that's quite interesting to monitor, I suppose. I wouldn't, because it's very difficult to gauge. Like, we don't know how much influence that might have had on the result. It was a slim result at the best of times. but I wouldn't really go as far as to be like, oh, it invalidates it somehow. You know what I mean? I'm not like.
Well,
It's dodgy though. It's really dodgy. Like
people still voted, but at the end of the day, like you could say that they were misled and given wrong
they were.
information, which is true.
Mm.
But I don't know if you could justify having another vote again based on the fact. I think a lot of people are tired of voting, and rightly so. Like I'm tired of
Brenda
voting.
from Bristol. Not
Brenda from
another
Bristol?
one.
You sound just like her. That's
I
a
know,
good West.
I know.
That's a good West Country accent.
I try. And oh look, Matt Hancock is trying to stick up for Estimate Bay. Oh yes, this is another thing I wanted to ask you about. Now, and I don't know whether the guys in the side chat might have a little bit of info on this too, but I had heard that likely resignations this week were potentially Esther McVeigh and Penny Mordaunt. So,
oh, she's the woman that took over from Priti Patel, isn't she? The international, no, that what's international development or international trade?
Guys, help us out here. I don't remember, but I know that she did take over from one. Yeah, so yeah, yes, it's her. And then there's the DWP woman, Esther McVeigh, who they like to refer to as the poison dwarf. Shafted has a particular amount of hatred for her.
Anyone who works in the DWP just
gets a lot of hatred. Yeah, this and actually often rightly so. So
yeah,
I can't.
The last person was Ian Duncan Smith, was it not? I just think like anyone who is in that role is like, let's treat people on benefits with absolute disdain. What?
Well,
why? DWP is a swamp, said Shafted.
Yeah, because Shafted himself is like in touch with the Department of Work and Pensions, like in his sort of everyday life, and he's like obviously firsthand has seen like what an absolute shambles it was, and obviously the universal credit fiasco and all of this.
I did a video on that actually.
Yeah, I know. I think I watched it.
Yeah, it's got about 3,000 views so far.
We're getting there.
Bionic Bert says, hard Brexit will mean McVeigh on steroids. People literally have no idea of the ramifications of what they voted for. I think that's fair. I think we're all justified in saying that. Like, people, I think there's a lot of criticism for like, oh, people didn't know what they were voting for. It's like, well, you can't ask everybody what specifically they voted for when they voted leave. I know some people obviously voted with legitimate reasons, but then knowing what we knew at the time, we can't say now that we knew absolutely what we were voting for because nobody did.
No, of course not. And I mean, we don't even know what the outcome's going to be now either. So it's like a, you know what? Even as like a pretty entrenched Remain, and actually, obviously, the shitstorm it's become makes me even more Remain, if that's even possible, than what I used to be.
Yeah.
Because this is just a fucking joke, right? I didn't even know it would end up as shit as this. Like I knew it would be messy, but I didn't even know it would be like this. This is like, to me, just beyond now. It is like led to the fact that we don't even have a legitimate governing sort of I mean, it's just unbelievable at this stage. I can't believe it. They have to just go. They have to get out because this is beyond.
Yeah, I agree. Like 2 years ago, I wouldn't have thought that 2 years later we'd be in this situation.
Yeah,
I thought we'd at least have gotten somewhere, and we haven't at all. Like we're literally in the same place, and no one can decide what's going on. They can't decide what they want, and there's infighting, and we're not concentrating the correct amount of attention on domestic policies. The NHS is in crisis. There's homeless homelessness on the rise, social services are in crisis, all sorts of stuff that we're not.
Housing issues.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know, I've always said this from the word go, right? The world doesn't stop turning just because some like people decided to leave in a random Brexit referendum. You know, there's like arguably most people, right, on the street. So you stop someone and you say, what are your genuine concerns? And I saw that throughout the local elections. Yeah. And they were hardly mentioning it. Like they were not worried really at all. Like they were much more concerned about genuine other domestic issues.
Yeah.
And so I just think, well, like a single issue government that doesn't know its arse from its elbow is obviously not helpful, is it? Like, you know, it's like just, I don't know.
Yeah. Thomas Williams and Jack James says the idea of giving the Tories absolute power is a really bad idea. Jack James says the idea of giving EU absolute power is pretty terrifying to me too. I don't think that's what we're doing.
I don't think that's what it's not what we're doing, but it's also not what we've just been talking about. Like it's not what we're proposing.
I mean,
either.
if we were handing the EU absolute power, our parliament would just be redundant, wouldn't it?
So what's the point in being
it wouldn't have any
democracy?
we wouldn't be doing anything. I mean, the parties would be like, we'd get rid of all our political parties and we'd literally just shove everyone over to Brussels.
Truly a vassal state, like.
Yeah, that's not what we're doing.
No.
And I disagree if it was what we're doing. There are EU elections as well, says Thomas Williams. Correct, there are. So people who make the suggestion that there are unelected officials within Brussels is not true, because they are elected. We elect our MEPs. Nigel Farage is one. Molly Scott Cato is another. And they represent obviously different interests, different parties.
I thought they are on.
Yeah, she's the Green MEP. Yeah, from Bristol. So yeah, and if you want to look more into like the EU Council and the EU Commission, which are two separate bodies, I think, and like Juncker is elected by the Commission, and other people are elected by
the MEPs.
We don't vote for the cabinet, do we? We don't vote for those positions. We just vote for the Prime Minister, and we vote for the party, and then the party.
Well, really, we just vote for our MPs, don't we? I mean, or MEPs, that's it. Like, we don't even vote for the Prime Minister. Prime Minister just gets handed to us, depending on what party you vote for. So, like, you're aware who the Prime Minister is going to be, but essentially you vote for your MPs.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm just to be aware, I'm probably going to keep this going for another 20 minutes or so, just because I'm a bit conked out today.
Yeah, whenever you want to wrap up is cool. I just wanted to chew over everything with you, really.
Yeah.
How did you think the vote would go, as far as the customs union vote? Because I knew that the government would win. I wanted it obviously to be defeated, but I knew it would, because they always have dodgy deals around the scene.
Is that the vote that would have us sort of in some form of a customs union?
Yeah, so in a no-deal scenario. So essentially it was the official death, if it's not dead already, which I suspect it actually is, but it was the official death of hard Brexit. Because what it was kind of tabling is, if there's a no-deal scenario, whether you like it or not, in a customs union.
Yeah. I don't know really. I have to sort of swap on that, because I haven't really had much time to chew that over. But I reckon it's still something that we'd obviously still have to negotiate. But I reckon I'd much prefer it to be honest, if we sort of had a deal that was, if we were to have a deal, retain sort of what Norway has, where they're part of the single market. And I know they're not in the customs union, but at least, again, it's a case of like half in, half out. But yeah, I I would much rather that we sort of had a customs arrangement whereby we had that, freedom and frictionless trade as much as possible. But I mean, the idea that the government would did you say that they voted for it or voted against it?
Yeah, I mean, like obviously, the customs union thing only just didn't make it. I think it was like 307 to 301 or 302. Like it was very, very, very close. Also, I think the whips resorted to, from what I understand, like very personal threats and stuff because they were fucking
God.
shitting themselves.
Jesus.
So
The
yeah,
thing
it
is,
was
though,
really
like,
bad.
it's all very well to say that you're not going to vote for something, but to me, it seems more obvious if you're not going to vote for something, you're obviously in favor of having something else. So don't just say, "Oh, I don't want that." But like, what do you want then? Like,
Propose
let's
something like
propose something else that you would like that is feasible. And they obviously can't come up with anything. So
well, no, but they
it's
haven't
just
been for
silly.
ages.
Yeah. But it's not on the table anyway, so
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, and I mean, we talk about this, right? We go, oh my God, we've managed to finally get some form of agreement, even if we have to put up with these ridiculous like amendments via the likes of Jacob Rees Mogg, right? We've finally come up with them. What we haven't been talking about is what if the EU, as is likely to actually happen, doesn't go for them? What happens
yeah,
then?
exactly. They probably won't, and then we'd be back to square one again. And I I bet you that I'm imagining the EU would have probably said, "These are all the scenarios that you've come up with
Oh,
that we're
they haven't
that
shifted.
we're
It's
definitely going
us
to
that.
say no to. Like, we're not going to accept this. We're not going to accept that. These are the clear, concise instructions that all the things that we're not going to accept. You can't have your cake and eat it. You can't cherry pick what you want. We can make some concessions, but you're going to have to meet us halfway, and you can't have everything." And that seems really obvious. Like, they've not shifted at all, as you say.
Nope.
So I don't know, like, what we're trying to do. Like, we're just trying to push them, like, "Oh, please give us a good deal. Please give us what we want." It's like, no, you voted for this. Like, you obviously want to try and make a good deal, but you're asking too much. Like, you're basically asking, you're asking to remain part of the gym without paying membership. Like, I want to still use all these facilities, but I don't want to have to pay for it. That's essentially what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, pretty. I feel like we're being very entitled. I keep saying this, like we're just. I feel like we're a very entitled nation that feels like if we ask for something, we should be able to get it. It's
Of
like, no,
course, it's the
you
spoiled
vote
child in the corner of place, isn't it?
you voted for this, and I was like, well, why can't we just leave? Why can't we just get on with it? And I feel like every time I hear someone say that, especially on Question Time, and I've stopped watching it now because these
Yeah, me too. I can't deal with it.
really like it's just like, why can't we just leave? It's like, well, the same way you probably can't just leave a job, like if you decide to leave.
Oh,
You can't
like
just
suddenly,
say,
or
yeah, you can't just say I'm leaving and then walk out the door without any explanation. Like, no, sorry. Um, yeah, it's just it doesn't work like that, and I feel like people are deluding themselves if they think that it's that easy, and it isn't.
but I think to be reasonable to people, I think that it, during the campaign, it was sort of sold as if it would be that simple. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, but it's I just it's ridiculous because nothing's that easy, and the whole let's simplify everything down into like 350 million for
Sound bites.
NHS, and like Brexit means Brexit and red, white, and blue Brexit and stuff. Like, nobody knows what the fuck that means, and you're not guaranteed anything. It's just words. And I feel like people have just been taken for a ride, and some people still believe like all the stuff that they've been told, like, oh yeah, we'll just be able to leave, and we're taking back control and sovereignty and stuff, and we'll be able to make our own laws. It's like, we already can do that stuff already. And like we are able to get rid of all the immigrants and stuff. Like we can already do that. We can already like people will come here who stay here for too long and they don't have a job yet for 3 months. You can tell them to go away or like not go away, but like you're not contributing like tax to the country, so therefore you have to go back to the country you came from, which is, fair. Like if you're not like a citizen of the country and you're not paying
But
tax.
the whole point is though is that the Home Office of successive governments has chosen not to exercise that power. That's very different to us not having it. I think that people genuinely didn't know that was actually even a thing. They didn't even know
Yeah.
that the country in itself, the government in itself, had that power. Like the level of debate, and I'll say this on both sides, including the Remain campaign, was shameful. It was
Yeah.
absolutely shameful. And when people turn around and say, "Oh, the Remain campaign was basically Project Fear," and it was like all about, well, you should because it's this, you should vote this because it's like the safer bet and stuff. That was exactly the whole narrative and exactly how it was, being pushed. And I'm not surprised that it drove people the other way in some ways.
Mm.
Having said that, to be perfectly honest, the level of debate was just as poor, if not worse, on the bloody Brexit side. And now we understand it was like corrupt anyway. But
Yeah.
with this bloody ridiculous bus going round and trying to claim that the National Health Service would be better off, or taking back control. What the hell does that mean? Like, fuck off. It's
Yeah,
like an
I
empty
know.
soundbite.
Yeah.
There was little to no information about anything. And then you had sort of overt contradiction in the likes of Daniel Hannan, who was a very prominent
I
leader.
remember when he said no one's talking about leaving
Only
the
a
single
fool
market.
would leave the single market. Nobody's talking about leaving the single
I
market.
That stuck
You
in my
know,
head, that did that quote.
yeah.
Like I'll remember that for later. Dum dum dum.
Mhm. It has not aged well because after then, people go, oh no, 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 no. Everybody knew that it would be no single market and no customs union. Really, because it was not even discussed up until like morons like him, who obviously, again, have no idea about anything, come out and say that, and then renege like later, and people by
Yeah.
then are like confused and go, what? Like we didn't. It's like I said, 17.4 million people voted for Brexit, but they didn't all vote for the same thing or for the same reasons. And
Yeah.
we'll never know what they did vote on because obviously the ballot booth is
Private.
yeah.
Yeah. Um Oliver Foster says, as the Labour force, we still have the Fight Club option. It's not like we can tie an elastic band around May's balls, but you get me, I'm sure. And he also says, further up the comments, I hate to say it again, but sovereignty is a fig leaf for privatisation.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Yeah, you reckon to see there is a bit of a conspiracy about that. I think that certainly it was a word that was just being batted around like a political football to try and get a bunch of plebs on side who probably didn't even know what it meant and couldn't even pronounce it for a start. But
It's sort of a bit like patriotism, isn't it? Like it's something you can get behind, sort of like a football team. And
but
I
that shows such a low level of debate, doesn't it? It's like
yeah, it does, doesn't it? I mean, like you say, it was just sort of like a empty slogan to get people on side, and it's just sad because like some people fall for it because, I mean, like a lot of people are really desperate and they're desperate for some sort of change, but I feel bad because it's like it's not going to be the change that they want, and they're just going to end up feeling worse off. And that's not their fault. Like they were persuaded by, corrupt, egotistical politicians who were only in it for themselves. And it's unfair. Like I hate watching people fall for this. Like it's not on them, it's on the politicians. And they're not going to care about the working class people, are they? They're
of
going
course
to
not.
end up like turning their backs and heading off into their, you know, second homes in like Berkshire and fucking, home counties, wherever it is, and forget about the working people who really matter and the wheels and the cogs of this country, essentially. So
yeah, I mean, say what you like about Anna Soubry. I know that she's a very divisive figure, and people sort of think, oh well, she made a speech exactly about that, and she was obviously referring to Jacob Rees Mogg when she said it. But James had linked something in the bullet chat a while back. It's only like a minute or so long. I'll link it to you later. But she basically said, "You tell that to my constituents who are out of work. You with your gilded. I think she said gilded pension." And then she also made it very open that she had heard people behind the scenes knowing that it would have that economic impact and saying, but it's worth it. So it's okay for all of these so-called plebs to lose hundreds of thousands of jobs whilst they're sitting pretty with their ridiculous pensions and 6 mansions.
yeah.
It doesn't. And then obviously you have individuals who are just middle class people being called the elite and wreckers and all this. And it's like, no, this is like diversion tactic from the real wreckers.
Something I tweeted, actually, I'm going off topic slightly, when you mentioned the elite and the establishment and that. I'm just trying to find what I tweeted. Yeah, I tweeted it. God, I can't find it now. It's probably in tweets and replies. Yeah, I just was tweeting saying, when people refer to the term elitist or I can't find where I tweeted it. But it's basically like, when pundits on TV say like, oh, the liberal elite this, liberal elite that. It's like, well, can you be specific as to who you're talking about? Because in some cases, it seems that people refer to them as like people who have a brain, people who have been to university, people who have been educated, people who probably oppose your perspective, and it's probably someone who disagrees with you and is critiquing you, and apparently that makes them a liberal elitist. So it's like, no.
Yeah, I mean, I've never lived in an age where there's this pesky thing called education. I've never lived in an age where ignorance and bigotry and stupidity is a badge of honor. I mean, I'm still quite shocked by it, actually, that people still think that that's something to admire or something fantastic. I don't get it.
Yeah, I agree. Shaft says Rowdog, the education system is a pack of lies. I disagree. Like, what? How do you mean? Like, what do you mean it's a pack? I mean, you could say that there's stuff within the education system that is like omitted and things that we don't get taught that perhaps we should. Stuff like Black history, like from other cultures and other countries.
Yeah, it's fair enough.
Things
Like we
like
do
that.
have quite yeah.
But in the sense that it's a pack of lies, like I don't. You'd have to sort of clarify that statement a little bit more. Cam says, "Oh, the tweets are going by quite fast." Cam says you would find most of the elite is pro-Remain. We should point our fingers at the upper classes. Jack James says that's true, but it's also why hard Brexit can't happen under the Tories. You would literally have riots. Well, I hope that doesn't happen, but
it's not gonna look. Which part of this do people not get? Parliament is never going to vote for a hard Brexit. It does not have a majority and it has to pass through Parliament. There's no way it's going to pass through Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can people not face this? People have never actually answered me when I've said this. So what's your plan on actually trying to make something pass that's obviously not going to fucking pass and wasn't never going to? Nobody can actually answer it, because you know, it's not like you need a few rebels or whatever to back a hub. You need fucking hundreds. You think they're going to suddenly cave and go, oh, all of a sudden I've decided to back a hard Brexit? Don't be ridiculous. It's obviously they are going to swallow whatever deal that we are given. Job done. I'm pretty sure that anyone that can see reality can fucking see that. And I'm so sick of people saying that this hard Brexit is on the damn table when it obviously isn't, because there's no majority in Parliament for it.
Yeah.
Because it really, because it matters very little what the public wants. Whether that's right or wrong in anyone's sort of opinion or view. And I'd be happy, you know, to talk about that too. I'm not a fan of referenda as it is, as I've already said, but you know, it that matters in no way, because if it doesn't have a parliamentary majority, it's not going to get through. End of. We're not going to have it. Like, it's just fact. Like, face facts. Seriously, man. Like, I don't understand what people's problem is.
So, if we were to look at, let's say, the next year or two, so let's look to March 2019. How do you think will end up, and what do you predict that the result will be by that time?
Oh God, you said by March?
Yeah, next year.
Well, first of all, I think there's going to be a general before that. I still think that. Me and Chamchi called that a while back. I think it's going to be October, November sort of time, because I can't think that if they have to come up with a workable deal by October, and obviously that includes the summer recess, right? So it's the whole timing
that's
thing.
like 3 months away.
Exactly. And if you think about then the summer recess too, like all of this, even then, that's probably.
I think we're gonna end up asking for some sort of extension
of Article 50. I agree, and I also think that a people's vote is probably, if
more
they're deadlocked. Yes,
more likely.
I think it's more likely now, and I don't necessarily agree with it either, because I don't like putting my faith in fucking UKIP Steve from down the pub personally, but whatever. And I don't want that, but I'm just saying that's what I think is or may happen, you know. I think
sorry, carry on.
No, I was going to say, I then think that ultimately neither of the major parties who will be in government at that time, regardless which one it is, will have the guts to follow through with a hard Brexit. And I also don't think it's going to pass through Parliament. So I think they're going to swallow a shit deal, and that's it.
I think, I think I agree with you sort of roughly. I think we'll end up by March 2019, we'll end up asking for an extension because we still wouldn't have sorted everything out. We'll still be pretty much in the same position, still infighting, still not knowing what the hell we want to do. Ask for an extension, we'll probably have a general election. There'll be a vote of no confidence, which will then lead
that's possible too, actually. Yeah.
And we'll have another occasion where we've got no party has a majority, and we'll have a party that's gonna just try and make the best of it. I mean, I think Labour are more likely to try and make a sensible-ish deal, better than the Tories anyway. But I think
anything will be better than this lot.
Yeah, I think that's where we'll end up, and we'll end up accepting any deal that the EU gives us, and then at some point it will be put to bed around, I don't know, 2020, 2021.
I think Matt Hancock, whoever you are, Matt Hancock, and I'm going to fucking find out who you are. I think he's trying to trigger me or us. He goes, there will not be an Article 50 extension. We will leave on the 29th of March. Thanks for expressing your concerns. Love from Matt.
Oh dear.
I used to find you so full of Wi-Fi and fun. I don't know if I see that anymore. Sorry, Matt Hancock. I'm going to find out who you are, by the way.
In regard to the education question that I think Cam and Shafted brought up, Shaft says not mathematics or that, I mean history and science and shit. Cam says our education system is a complete failure in that British public, when it comes to the most important issues in our society, is ignorant. Well, I would say in that case that it's not like deliberate lying to people in terms of education. It's just the fact that people are not getting taught it, like specifically important stuff to do with like the issues that you refer to. It's just it. There's a difference between being ignorant and like having been lied to. So
I
I
also
think
do think, like, you know how there are certain, because obviously we have syllabuses, don't we? So like,
yeah,
um,
I think a lot
by
a lot of it is sort of geared towards like British supremacy and like imperialism. A lot of it is.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, um, but I think also that cannabis claim is quite a bold one.
Which one? What?
Shafter says,
Oh, well, also we know cannabis can cure cancer, but you're not allowed to say there's a cure. Really?
when you say cure it, you literally mean cure it. Could
Is
you
that
send us
all
some
cancers or just a
or
specific
particular
few?
ones? Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Thomas Williams also had said, just up the chat a little bit. So you have whole groups of people who are massively ignorant and susceptible to charlatans, the likes of Farage, Mogg, Gove, Boris, etc. Yeah, I mean the this is a very interesting point, and if I were to put on my tinfoil hat for a while, because you'll know that I like a good
mhm.
conspiracy, um, it's the whole Emperor Nero scenario, isn't it? Give them bread and circuses, keep them dumb, because a
Yeah.
dumb electorate is very easy to manipulate, and
Gullible.
you cave and you believe like the likes of like idiots, and and that kind of thing. Now, um, I believe that there was some form of vote about like mandatory. I don't know whether it was politics or something in schools at a certain age, right?
Uh-huh.
And like overwhelmingly, the vast majority of MPs, especially Conservative MPs, voted against it. Now, don't quote me on this. I will find you the vote. I can't remember when it was. It was years back. Um,
Mhm.
but I remember thinking then, oh, that's very telling. You know.
Oh yeah. Well, my school, I think, a few people were chosen to do, and this was in our sixth form. We did like a critical thinking course, and I think that was just for like high achieving people. I don't know why, but yeah, we had a critical thinking course, and we also had like general studies where you just got taught like random shit about the society and stuff. Um, so I don't know what the syllabus is like in other schools, but yeah, that's an interesting point, Angel. So yeah, it'd be good. I mean, I agree with you on the whole bread and circuses thing. If you have, I mean, there are always going to be
You put
like,
fucking morons like from Love Island on Thomas
yeah,
Williams. Don't you love that woman from Love? Right? We saw her on Daily Politics. We were like live tweeting, and we were also in bullet chat at the same time. And Thomas
hmm
Williams was like, "Fuck my life!" When this woman came on, right? He goes, "Women like her is why direct democracy doesn't work."
jeez,
I was like,
um,
harsh but fair.
gosh, but there, um, there's what was I gonna say? There's that's it's part of the reason why I don't really enjoy watching reality TV like X Factor and Britain's Got Talent and stuff like that because like I just find it all very superficial and it's just I can see like why they're doing it and it's just there's just like no like brain engagement required at all and it's just like I have to watch something that requires a little bit of like me thinking about something. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah.
I mean, like this is the entire thing. I'm not really into those either. I remember, like, in the past, I was a little bit into Big Brother a couple of times, but I was like old school Big Brother. And since then, like stuff like Love Island, and I think actually to sorry to hijack your words, Thomas Williams, but I think he called this woman who was on Daily Politics later on this week Chernobyl level of stupid. And I was like, that is a hilarious and he actually upped it. When we saw her on This Week, he said, oh my God, she's actually gone upwards in the level of stupid. And I'm like, is that possible? But okay.
Oh gosh. Cam says, I rarely watch TV now, and Love Island is partially the reason why I think it dumps down the population. I think me and you agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. I think, well, especially those types of shows. I mean, I understand that they're I think maybe we can get a little bit too conspiratorial about it. I mean, they are there for a bit of just a brain wind down in some ways, you know, like it's like people get back from work and they can't be asked really to engage. So they just watch this meaningless crap.
Yeah. To be honest, I have watched like Celebrity Big Brother on occasion just because it had people in it that I thought it would stoke up some like heated arguments, which it did. But yeah, I don't want to be too harsh because I know that like some people just like having shit on in the background just to watch for lols. Yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap this stream up in a couple of minutes as it's getting a little bit late.
Yeah, that's all good. If you want to just go through the last of the comments and then we can
they are going by quickly. Jack James says, my question would be, would you trust someone like Mogg to set up a critical thinking curriculum? God, absolutely not. Oh my goodness. Can you imagine what that would be? Oh my God. Something like what would it even critical thinking curriculum?
I mean, how to wear a top hat and naming all
share prices and hedge funding. How to and things like that. Oh my God, I don't know. Barnick Bert says, I don't watch TV. I'm not a mushroom being kept in the dark and fed shit. That's fair enough. Thomas Williams says, Jack James, would you trust parents to school their children? That is a brilliant saying, Barnick Bert. I would like Matt Hancock. I would like to invite you to personally to the Matt Hancock app. Perhaps I can persuade you to join Team Hancock. Oh dear, I think that's a troll right there. But yeah, I think we'd better wind down just because. Right, let's wrap up. I'd like to thank Angels for joining me in this stream this evening. We had a really pretty good discussion on the state of Brexit and the absolute shambles that it is. We had some good predictions. I think I can tell you actually that the latest YouGov poll has Labour on a 5-point lead on 41% and Conservatives on 36%. Which I don't know how much that tells us because it's been up and down for quite a while. But yeah, that's the latest YouGov poll. So yeah, thank you to Angels for joining me. If she's still there, I haven't actually heard her for a few minutes. Angels, are you still there? Hello. I think she's disappeared to get some wine. Or something. If not, she can speak up, I guess. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. Oh no, she's gone. She's gone, I think. Is she? I don't know. But yeah, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to each of our channels. Mine is obviously Rowdog Does Politics. If you could share and comment and feedback and whatever, that would be great. I try and upload videos every at least every fortnight. But if you want to see a specific video on a certain topic, then let me know. And I will upload. I feel like that's pretty much all I have to say. So yeah, from both me and Angels, who is now left, and she'll probably come back on when I've gone off air. Have a very good evening and the rest of your week. And I will see you in another video very soon. Bye, guys.